You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
Hey guys, welcome back. You're listening to the second part of last week's episode. Let's jump back in.
That was the section. I am super curious, though, and have to ask about your books. You've written a ton of books. You mentioned this. Many of them are Amazon bestsellers, right? You've written them with multiple genres, multiple topics. So one, how did you get started writing? And two, I want to ask, what role does that play in your life, right? There's clearly a drive in you to write because you can have all these thoughts and not put them out there. So how did you get started and what role does writing and being an author play in your life today? Like, why put so much of your time, which is valuable, into that versus anything else?
Okay, so remember, all my answers will start from the baseline of having a 1.8 GPA and being a linear thinker and a simpleton. So how did it start? I was starting to succeed at the high-end level in real estate. People were asking me to come talk to business organizations, Harvard Business Club, commencement speeches, what have you. And I had a piece of legal science paper folded in half in my top pocket. And on that one piece of paper, I had 50 philosophies that I lived by, that I just kind of threw together, that kind of got to me to where I am. And what I would do if it was a Harvard Business Club or wherever I went to, well, not wherever, it was Harvard Business Club, I would handpick 4 or 5 because that's how much time I had, and I would talk about it. If it was a commencement speech at an 8th grade graduation, it was a different set.
Right.
Somebody came up to me and said, Frank, you let me see that. You need to really take those 50 philosophies and turn them into a book, which was my very first book, Make It Big, 49 Secrets for Building a Life of Extreme Success. The publisher said you need an odd number instead of an even number. So I left out one of the secrets and maybe it showed up later. But so that was that. It took me 3 years. It took me 22 rejections from agents, over 50 rejections from publishers before I finally got that first book published in 2002.
Wow.
And that was really a philosophical book. It wasn't a real estate book, Dan.
Yeah.
Publisher loved it, loved the results, said, that's great. You fancy yourself a philosopher, Frank, but you're really a real estate guy. So you got the philosophy book out of the way. Write a book on real estate. Second book, Frank McKinney's Maverick Approach to Real Estate Success, how to go from a $50,000 flip to a $50 million mansion. And that was the first book that took people step by step on how to go from A to B. And then I realized, you know what? I'm a Christian. I'm a spiritual man. I wrote a spiritual book called The Tap, which is based upon the passage from the Gospel of Luke 12:48, to whom much is entrusted, much is required. To whom much is given, much is expected. If you're not in the Bible, it's a great life mantra. So don't tune me off or turn Dan's podcast off.
Yeah.
I walk my daughter to school every single day for 10 years. That's 1,652 consecutive walks. I turned that into my only young reader fantasy novel based upon that adventures we had over that 10-year span. I wrote a second real estate book called Burst This, Frank McKinney's Bubble-Proof Real Estate Strategies. Then I moved into Christian romance, The Other Thief. Then I wrote my only mindset book, Aspire, How to Create Your Reality and Alter Your DNA. Then Adversitology, Overcoming Adversity When You're Hanging On by a Thread. And the new book, by the time you air this, which is a compilation, I can't really see it, Aspirational Thoughts, Inspirational Images, an art gallery and teacher, a photography exhibit and mentor. So that's the products. Not, I guess I'm plugging them, but that's the products. Right. But the whys are, I think if I didn't have the outlet of writing, like I might look like I'm a lot of fun, but I'm a nerd in sheep's clothing. Like I go to bed at 8, get up at 4. My wife calls me that very word. Like he's a lot less exciting than he looks. That's my outlet. Like I really enjoy the challenge of writing new genres. Yeah. And the ultimate why is one, if you all go to Frank McKinney, go to Amazon, one book provides 100 meals in one of our orphanages in the 31 self-sustaining villages that we've built in Haiti over the last 20 years. We won't have time to probably get into that, but that's like that these kids are eating. If this is a hamburger, a pressed little hamburger, kids are eating dirt flavored with bouillon and lemon juice.
Yeah.
One book, they're eating 2-part protein, 1-part carbohydrate in one of our villages. So that the books, I make no money from my books, by the way. I made all my money in real estate, but the books help fund the operations in Haiti.
Wow, that's amazing, dude. I didn't realize that. I was aware of your nonprofit work, but I didn't realize the connection there. That's amazing. That's super cool.
Yeah. One book provides 100 meals.
So literally, like the cost of a single book pays for 100 meals in Haiti?
Not my cost. If you bought one of the books, on average, it provides 100 meals to children.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, well, look, obviously, go on Amazon, search up Frank McKinney. You can pick your genre that you're interested in. There's no reason not to do that. That's amazing.
You know, David, that's why I bought back the title. I bought back the rights to all but 2 of the titles. I couldn't get the first 2 titles, but Caring House Books is its own publishing entity. Caring House is the name of our nonprofit that builds the self-village in Haiti. So we own the rights. We make a little bit more money each book, and then more money goes over to Haiti. Oh, man,
I love that so much. And we will, obviously, I'll put links to all of this stuff in the show notes, but obviously you can go to the website, which is frank-mckinney.com. You find it, or go on Amazon, just look up Frank McKinney. You'll find him there too. Frank, I know we're coming up on time. I want to respect there's a million more things I want to ask about. Here is kind of a random one, but I'm very curious. Mate, you got a lot of stuff going on. Today I'm feeling particularly overwhelmed just by random life stuff, right? Just got a lot going on. Like, how do you manage so many different things happening at once? Like, is it the kind of thing where, like, in practice for you, it's really only one thing at a time? Because to me, it's like you're doing the real estate, you're speaking, you're writing. There's like so many different things going on. How do you manage that? Or is that the wrong question? I mean, by all means, let me know if so.
First of all, we have plenty of time, so take your time. I'm not in any hurry. People have this misconception that I have all these balls, juggling in the air.
Yeah.
Go the linear thinker, the 1.8. I can't listen to music while I'm working. I can't have the TV on while I'm working. I really have to work on one thing at a time. And typically it would be like in the morning. I remember when I was writing my spiritual book, that's when I'm in my Bible and I'm praying and stuff. So that would be the time that I might be a little bit more adept at writing. During the day, it's, I'll set aside time for the real estate stuff. And at night it's family.
Yeah.
We're training for one of my ultramarathons. But I've perfected the art of efficiency. And part of that process is how to say no to my own self, not to other people. It's to like that. Like if you had a frazzled day today and you were being pulled in so many directions, it's up to you to say no to yourself to be pulled into that direction. And that's a discipline, that comes over time. And I think the discipline, discipline for me is like an impulse seed. An impulse seed is planted. And I make sure when I have an impulse, like, okay, I want to write a new genre, I want to run a new race. That's an impulse that I get. I am very impulsive. Is it a constructive impulse or is it a destructive impulse? I really still have to put it through a filter to see if it's destructive or constructive. And it happens quickly. Once it's constructive, I plant that I make sure that root grows fast and deep, because the deeper the impulse seed root grows, the harder it is to uproot it, meaning being distracted, into something else. You're not as old as I am, but you're of the generation where you have the ability to stay a little more focused. The younger generation, that's something that I focus on even in this new book, is how to have monomaniacal focus. Monomaniacal, like the blinders of a racehorse, when it's appropriate. And listen, people say, oh, you've done all these genres. Dan, I didn't do a book until I'd been in real estate for 20 some years.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel like I want to carve my niche a little deeper and wider. I don't want to carve a little niche here, a little niche here. I mean, it's taken me 35 years to carve the real estate niche and the book niche. And the charity niche. That's all I have. I don't have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah. I think, it's funny, man. I've asked that question to a couple different people who, very accomplished people. And it's a very common thread in the response of, it's more about choosing what not to do than it is about choosing what to do. And, okay, you reminded me of this. I almost forgot to ask about the ultramarathoning, which is just like, in a different interview, that would have been the first thing I would have talked about. But all right. So maybe we got to dig into this. So at being someone who ran a 5K like once and was like, that was enough for me. What is the appeal of the ultramarathoning? Like, and I specifically, I'm so curious about this experience for you. You are like halfway. So you are halfway on this incredibly, for anybody really taxing experience. You're halfway, right? You still got half to go. What is going through your head? Like, what is that experience like for you in the moment? It's one thing to end it. It's one thing to be at the beginning. What is that like in the middle for you? And what about that experience makes you want to keep pursuing it and having it over and over again?
Let's start by defining what an ultramarathon is for your viewers and listeners that aren't sure. So an ultramarathon is technically any distance over a traditional marathon. So it could be a 50K, which is 31 miles. It could be a 100K, which is 62 miles, a 100 mile or 50 miler. So in 20 years ago, I stumbled upon the sport. I'd never heard the word ultramarathon uttered in my life. And I was out in Death Valley vacationing, and I went out for my typical like 10K fast twitch muscle run. I didn't realize that it was, 125 degrees and I was running on 200-degree pavement. I almost died. My wife had to bring me back to life because I had brought a bottle of water about the size of this eyedropper out on my run. I wasn't prepared. I went to the general store and asked for bananas and Gatorade, and the clerk looked at me with these little 49er prospector rim glasses. I'll never forget. Said, "You better get back out there. You're in last place." I said, "Excuse me, sir." And he yelled at me. I said, "Excuse me, sir. I just want bananas and Gatorade. If you don't hurry up, you're not going to make the cutoff." Okay, I know I look flushed and I'm all sweaty and my eyes roll back in my head, but what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're not a part of the Badwater Ultramarathon? I had booked a vacation during the race without even knowing there was such a thing.
Oh, okay. All right. So the Badwater's through Death Valley, essentially.
Runs through Death Valley in July on blacktop pavement that's 200 degrees. It's 135 miles from point to point over 3 mountain ranges, up and down 3 mountain ranges, nonstop 48-hour time limit. When I heard there were other people out there running in the temperature, I tried to do a 6-mile run in and couldn't finish it. Yet they were going 135 miles. I was instantly intoxicated with what I call the 3 I's. And this happens to everybody in life: the insurmountable, the incomprehensible, and the impossible. It was insurmountable, incomprehensible, and impossible for me to believe somebody was out there running that far in that heat. But wait, they were doing it.
Yeah.
I'm a human. I've got blood, flesh and bones and cartilage just like they do. Long story short, I hired a coach in 2004 who got me ready. I'm a good writer. You had to write an application to get into the race. I wrote like a dissertation to get into Harvard or Yale. And I was on that starting line in 2005. From that, a year to the date from that fateful run. Since that time, I have started the race 12 times. I've failed 5. I've finished 7. And what it represents to me, and it should represent to your listeners and viewers, forget the fact that my insurmountable, incomprehensible, and impossible, my 3 I's is this thing in Death Valley called the Badwater 135-mile ultramarathon. But there's others. There's been others. There's been bigger real estate projects, bigger chances I've taken with finishes in a house that were insurmountable, incomprehensible, and impossible. So if I can convert my body and more importantly, my mind into an ultramarathon runner, I wasn't gifted. I worked for there's 250,000 times my feet hit the ground in that race. Every single football I have to fight for. And I finished in an average time of 44 hours, Dan. Like, I'm not a front runner. I'm right in the back. And there's been times I didn't make the cutoff and I didn't finish. But everybody listening and watching, you will have regrets in life. No matter what you do, you're going to have regrets in life. I made a commitment to myself decades ago to regret what I did, not what I didn't do. So if I'm closer than most to be sitting in that rocking chair on my front porch at 80-some years old, I will take the only regrets I'll look back on and say, man, that was nuts trying to do a $100 million spec house. And I kind of regret doing that. I lost some money. But I would never want to be sitting in that same rocking chair saying, you know what? I regret not trying that Badwater race. Think of the things I've learned, even with my 5 times I failed.
Yeah.
So that's the takeaway: is pursue the insurmountable, the incomprehensible, the impossible. Say yes more than no. train the mind. It's more than the mind and the body. I mean, my body's 10% away from race shape, but my mind's probably 30% away from being in shape to race that race again. Once you pursue the insurmountable, the impossible, and the incomprehensible, it's not elastic anymore, right? It doesn't stretch back to the way it was. The mind is much broader, and it gave me more confidence to try other things in life that weren't running related, specifically what we tried in our houses, our oceanfront homes.
Want to find motivated seller leads online, but don't know where to start? Download our free Motivated Seller Keyword Report today. AdWords nerds have spent over $5 million this year researching the most profitable keywords for finding motivated seller leads. And you can grab these exact keywords when you download our report at www.adwordsnerds.com/keywords.
Let me ask this then as a way of kind of ending this interview, because I think there's, I mean, man, it's like just my brain is spinning, basically. That's what I'm saying. But so with all that kind of as context, right? You've got this story of coming into real estate and kind of becoming this real estate artist, bringing this sense of craft to things, this sense of marketing to your craft. You've got this kind of part of your life where you're an author and you're doing nonprofit work. And then you've got this approach to, I mean, I love the thing that you said about regretting what you did, not what you didn't do. I think that's so powerful, right? So with all that as background, how do you decide what's next for you? Like when you look out in the world, what is exciting to you now? Is it just like, I am trying to hone in on, the perfect example of this thing I'm already doing? Are you constantly seeking something new? Like, how do you decide what is next for you, what you're going to take on next? And as a way of kind of finishing up and wetting people's whistle to go learn more, what is next for you?
Once I replaced pride with gratitude, I can't tell you how many times people have said, Frank, aren't you proud of all you've done in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And up until I was like 50, I would say, yeah, I am. I'm no longer proud of a damn thing. I'm not proud of a single thing I've done. I am so grateful that I was given the awareness to pursue the opportunity.
Mm.
So whatever is next has to come from that base. If it's, and we'll get into what I'm doing right as we speak, and depending on when you release this, but if it's not in service to my professional or spiritual highest calling, and now toward the end of my life, well, for the back half of my life, it's got to be more in service to my spiritual highest calling. That dictates what's next. I don't have to, I fight the need to have to better my previous best. It's always about better. And I believe you can better your previous best until a certain point. And then you define the word best. And then you redefine the word better. So I'm not, there will never be $100 million house. There won't be a house bigger than 22 bedrooms, 24 bathrooms, and 18-car garage, which was the biggest one we ever did. That's no longer part of the unhealthy ego that was the consumerist, the materialist, and the egotist that existed in a younger Frank McKinney. So, I because of my faith, and I pray for, if I'm feeling a little sedentary or a little like unchallenged, I'll pray for something to be brought to me that might be next. And what was laid on my heart about a year ago after Adversitology came out, which was, it's basically a memoir on a death sentence I got from my doctor on how to overcome physical, financial, relational, spiritual adversities. I want to put together this compilation. I've got into photography about 5 years ago. This aspirational thoughts, inspirational images, an art gallery, and teacher, photography exhibit, and mentor. In short, left-hand page, oversized book, 8 by 12. Left-hand page, beautiful images of photography. Right-hand page, a collection of a few thoughts, quotes, ideas, and sound bites from my entire career. We went back to 1998, unpublished manuscripts, rejected manuscripts, books that have been published, interviews on Oprah, sound bites. I had a whole team go through. We had over 1,100 thoughts, quotes, and ideas that I cut down to 260. Here's what I hope people get from this. And there are 10 categories or 10 chapters: love, God, breathe, hope, risk, introspect, et cetera, death, family. Let's say you need some hope in your life, Dan. You're going to open the hope chapter. You're going to find about 15 images that relate to hope. And then you're going to read 15 pages in succession of quotes that relate to hope. If one of those resonates with you, you know how you're going to remember it? The image on the other side of the page. So there's a beautiful image, and these aren't just like sunrise and the sunsets. They're from the mind of Frank McKinney. They're very evocative images, very creative. That image will help you retain, implement, and take action on one of the many quotes in there. It's a whole new way of learning, retaining, and implementing. So that has jazzed me. It's a very difficult book to put together.
Yeah.
But between now and April 1, it's available on Amazon. It's available now from our fulfillment. And April 24th, we're doing a big book launch party. And then what's unconventional is we will do a 52-city, 33-state, 10,110-mile book tour that doesn't just do TV stations, radio stations, and podcasts. We're stopping at over 50 homeless shelters, soup kitchens, food pantries, detention centers, abused women's facilities, veterans facilities, and treatment facilities to deliver the message of hope found in that book. Because if you're a homeless person and you've come off the streets, you've lost everything. The last thing I want you to lose is hope. And that's why we're making a stop at all these primarily homeless shelters will be our destination.
Wow, that's amazing, dude. That's super cool. So you're basically, are you like distributing the book, and like, is that kind of like what the idea is?
Well, from the marketing side, the media will follow that because not many authors stop at homeless shelter. And when I'm done with my little talk, again, attention spans are really short. I'm not on a stage. I'm standing on a cooler. I'm standing on a chair. Wherever they give me. We do it's like a game show. This is interesting. When you come in the door, you get a ticket. One of those tickets that you tear, and I got the same number, and you got the same number.
Yeah.
And we put all those tickets into. I borrow some guy's hat. We put them in the hat because I've done this before, and we draw out 9 winners. You get check this out with Adversitology, which is my last book. You get your choice. Remember, you're homeless. You get your choice of cash right there on the spot. I give you cash, a gift card to Target or McDonald's or Starbucks or something, or a copy of the book. 67% of the time in my last book and 62% of the time in the book before that, the first choice was the book.
Wow.
Because they want to feed their mind. It's a fascinating observation. And these, listen, this is a pretty rough environment. I'm usually in the minority with regards to my skin color and certainly with my hair color. Yeah. And yet the way that the Holy Spirit kind of parts the Red Sea and we're able to deliver this message of hope. It's one of the things, if I were to put into the top 5 experiences of my life, it ranks up there in the top one or two.
Wow. That's incredible. I can't, it's really shocking is not the right word, but I guess surprising, right? It's so fascinating. And just a really great example, man, of like the approach they really just bring to everything. What a great kind of way to end the interview. So we talked about the websites, frank-mckinney.com. Obviously, you can go on Amazon, look up Frank McKinney, you can find many of Frank's books. And we got the new one, which is, say the title one more time for people can go look this out. You said it's going to come out sort of April time. So what's the title again of the new one?
So if you do go to frank-mckinney.com and there's a rotator at the top of my webpage, the very first image you'll see there, aspirational thoughts, inspirational images, an art gallery and teacher, a photography exhibit, and mentor. That you'll see there. But when you're on the website, so let's say you're not even into books, you can take tours of the villages we built in Haiti. You can take tours of the houses we built on the ocean. You can read sample chapters, free chapters in any book. You can listen to Audible chapters. Like that's the Disney on a desktop that PC Mag, I guess, recognized.
Yeah.
And listen, we're going to keep doing what we're doing anyway, building the villages and write the books. But feel good knowing that if you buy a book or if you just go to the Caring House page, which is our entity that builds the self-staying villages, I'm a philanthrocapitalist, Dan. I take the best of philanthropy, which is the heart. I get rid of the worst, which is charity. I'm a capitalist. Take advantage. The best part of capitalism is the money. Get rid of the worst, which is greed. I married philanthropy with capitalism. I become a philanthrocapitalist. So these villages in Haiti, I've built 31 of them that are self-sustaining. That's 14,000 kids that were eating dirt are now eating a nutritious 2-part protein, 1-part carbohydrate meal because of our approach to building these self-sustaining villages.
Yeah, that part of that story is so cool. And I really will second this. Like, if you haven't been on Frank's website, go and check out the homes that he designs and builds. These are so cool. You will be inspired by them. Frank McKinney, man, this was such an awesome interview. You really brought it. Thank you so much for your time, and I really, really appreciate it.
Let's put this out there to all your listeners and all your viewers. If they enjoyed it, let's catch up while we're on tour. Maybe from a homeless shelter. Let's do an interview from a shelter, or something underneath a bridge or something. And I would, if you give me that honor, because the books will start to really be rolling, then I would love to come back and do a little encore.
I would absolutely love to, and particularly I would love to dig into that experience. So we will absolutely do that. If you are down, I am 100% down.
Okay. Let's do it. I'll earn it. I'll earn it from your viewers' comments, I hope.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the REI Marketing Nerds podcast. Hope you had a really fun time with this interview with Frank. I know I did, and I hope you got a ton out of it. Please do go check out Frank's stuff. You can also find the show notes for this episode over at AdWordsNerds.com. You can find all our past episodes, all our past show notes, transcripts, and more. Go check that out. AdWordsNerds.com is the place to be. Look, folks, I just want to say this. I have been doing this a long time. I have been in this business a long time, doing this podcast a long time. And, every now and then you come into a point in your life where you got to stop and say thanks for the things that you've been given. And I am truly thankful for this time in this industry, all the clients I've worked with, all the investors who have helped me and taught me and mentored me. And I'm thankful for you showing up and listening to these episodes. It means a lot to me. I hope you get a lot of value out of it because I love doing them. And I just want to say I appreciate it. All right, folks, I will see you next week. Have a good one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.